welcome back to the podcast. Hello, you guys. How are you all doing? I'm doing really good. I'm doing amazing. I just came back from an incredible vacation. I spent a few days in Miami. One of my adopted little sisters is getting married, and this is like my umpteenth trip to Miami. And this time, you guys, for the first time, I completely fell in love with Miami. I used to live in Miami. I moved away running because the heat is rude. And then I told myself I would never go back in Miami in the summer. But every time I've gone back in the summer is because of this little girl who got married. And this time, for the first time after a decade, I love Miami. So yeah, I'm doing really good. It is really refreshing. And I did so much reflection over my life then and now. And I posted a little bit of that on social media. So if you follow me, Christiane and David, you got a glimpse of that. So that was really fun. And today we're going to dive into episode 89 because we're going to talk about you need to stop being afraid of what you want. And that is going to be a really good conversation because here's what I have found to be true after all of the coaching I have been doing with women around money is women are not setting financial goals. And even when they say what they want financially, they don't mean it to the fullest. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean. Women are afraid to be disappointed by not getting the thing they say they want. So therefore, they don't even see it. They don't give themselves space to even want it. And what I want to say to that is that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about you needing to stop being afraid and just taking yourself seriously enough to desire what you want and own it. And what that does and how you do that is you build willingness to say out loud what you say you want. You then define it clearly. You create a process to make it happen because you're the one creating the thing you say you want. And that turns you into the woman who is the most powerful leader in her own life. That whole process is magical because the result is, and when you create a process to materialize your dream, you then become the woman who realizes her dreams. And the result you create here is you become the most powerful leader in your own life. The value of you becoming the most powerful leader in your own life, because you can now fulfill your financial dreams, is that you have an elevated self-trust. You speak words to yourself and you believe yourself and you trust yourself. Your word is as good as done. And this for the remainder of your life. There's no more doubt. There's no more confusion. There's no more maybes. There is certainty, not because your circumstances changed, but because you changed. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, we answer the question. I've often asked myself this question: why don't women dream bigger? And this is even a bigger question because the first part of that question is, why don't women actually dream? And I always say end. It's not an end after a question. What's so fascinating about this question is women don't even realize that this is what is happening until it's pointed out to them. I was in a coaching session with a client recently, and she says, I don't know what I want, because ever since she started working with us a few months ago, that has been her assignment. Determine what you want. I always ask my clients to decide what they want. This is the most important question you can ever ask yourself if you never ask yourself any questions. What do you want? So she's been working on that for months. And when we coached, what came up was there's just fear. The fear of what I want is not big enough. Or the fear of what I want is too big for me or impossible. I said, so the question, the truth is not that you don't know what you want, is that you're afraid of what you want. Because if you own what you want, then your brain offers you 17,000 reasons why you can't make it happen. You don't know the how, so You might as well not even want it because you're going to be disappointed since you don't know the how. So the truth isn't that you don't know what you want. Women always know what they want. The truth is you're afraid to own what you want because that means you actually may not make it happen. And here is an insidious part of this question or this answer is that it's very possible that you could make it happen, but living this new way of living after you make it happen is also really risky in your mind. So it's best to just hide behind, I don't know what I want. I'm very confused. But again, we know that women do know what they want. Because when you start asking specific questions, all of the questions are answered. Where will you be? What would you be wearing? How many people will be around you? Details, and they start coming out. So the truth is that you do know what you want. So that's the first thing. You got to own it. You got to decide, yes, I know what I want. Because here's why this matters. What you want is a living thing. It's a desire inside of your heart that is there. And no matter how much you try to run away from it, it goes with you. And so the more you deny it, the louder it gets. It gets loud enough to be a humming noise in the back of your mind that it feels painful, uncomfortable, nagging, and it ruins basically everything else out of your life because you can't sort of finish a project. And I'm talking financially speaking. When a woman wants to be debt-free and she tells herself, I want to be debt-free, but I don't, and immediately her brain offers her all the reasons why she can't do it. So she'll be like, I don't think I can pay this debt off in my lifetime. I don't think I can pay the debt off while I'm living my life. I don't think I can find a job that's going to give me the extra money that I need to pay the debt off. Any of the reasons that can come up. What she's doing is arguing with the truth in her heart. And every time you do that, you lose. You're draining your own energy from the energy you could be using to fulfill your dream. Because that noise, that nagging from your brain follows you everywhere. And it affects everything you do. Because every time you prove to yourself that you can't fulfill the dream that's within your heart, you're also proving that anything else you want to achieve is not achievable. So all of a sudden you find yourself in these patterns of starting things and not finishing them. Just because you didn't even want to own a financial goal or a financial desire. So again, it's not because you don't know what you want, it's just that you're afraid. And you're not the only one responsible for this. Women have been socialized to not own their dreams for a very long time. When we're little, we dream like crazy. Little girls like to sit around and dream about their wedding, dream about being mothers, dream about being all these amazing things, astronauts, doctors, all these amazing things that we dream about. The things that the world offers us in our own imagination. And we dream about them constantly until one day the adults in our lives start telling us that we need to become realistic. That word just ticks me off. We need to become realistic. We need to want what belongs to us because there are things that don't belong to us. We need to start thinking about what makes sense, what's logical. And the more we hear that narrative, the more we believe it. Because I also tell my client who was talking about the fact that she didn't know what she wanted, that our brain has this negative bias. Our brain will latch on to negative naturally, just by default. It will latch onto negative 7 times faster than anything positive. So if a little girl has spent the last 5 years of her life, the first 5 years of her life, dreaming about what's possible, what she wants to become, all the things, her imagination is wild, which I love. If she spent all that time doing it in a safe environment, and then she's exposed to influences that make dreaming, wanting, desiring dangerous, her brain will attach itself to that new belief powerfully, strongly, and it will become a core belief for her. So then it starts to confront the desire inside of her of a wild imagination. But remember, the negative bias has more emotional power than the positive things that we think about. So she will attach herself to that belief system. And that's why young people are so influenceable more than adults. And that's who she becomes. She becomes a woman who's afraid to dream because somebody told her one day to be realistic. Somebody told her one day that whatever she was dreaming about was never going to create the life that she wanted. It wasn't going to give her a conventional life. Therefore, it was not safe to dream. This is where this begins. And then when we become adults, I actually said this to another client. I said, we can only blame our parents for so long. After we become adults, we actually have to own everything that comes out of our brain. And when I say own, I don't mean that this is who you are. I just know that whatever belief you're speaking out loud, you cannot blame your parents for it anymore, because your job as an adult is to question everything you believe in, to make sure that it is a belief you want to keep believing. And if you haven't gone through that phase, that's exactly where we begin in Money Academy, in my membership. We start to question everything first, because there are so many things we believe that were just inherited. They're not even actually our own beliefs. Our own beliefs are there, very powerful about who we are, what we want to do. We don't give them attention. We just pay attention to all these beliefs that will take us anywhere. Again, part of the reason this happens is because our brain is prone to the negative bias. So when you know this, then it makes sense that as adults and women, most importantly, we don't dream. We're afraid. We don't want to go there. We don't even want to explore what's possible. So I told this client of mine, the first one, that the truth is you're afraid of what you want. And so then I asked her, I said, what do you want? And it came out. There was no hesitation. There was no question. It was very plain and simple. Here's what I want. So it was never because she didn't know what she wanted. There was the fear that was instilled in her since she was little. There's the fear that she's accumulated throughout her life as an adult. And that fear is very powerful when we don't see it. So here is now a ninja move that your brain does to you that you don't even see. And I mentioned this earlier. It's not just the fear of failure that prevents us from dreaming. There's also fear of success. That fear actually is way more powerful than fear of failure. Let me explain. I read this Facebook post from a friend of mine the other day online that I thought was so perfect. And I'm just going to read you one sentence that I captured from that post that I think is it's the thing I want you to think about from this episode. She says, it's the life you don't know how to live yet that feels risky. Think about that. When you have a dream, it means that dream will change your life. Like if you want to know how to swim, if you want to own a self-driving car, if you want to make $1 million, if you want to be debt-free, the thing you say you want is going to change your life. Which means whatever life you're living right now is what you know, is what you're familiar with. If you get the thing you say you want, you will have to live a different life that you're not familiar with, that you don't know. And that is more risky than actually failing to achieve the thing and remaining in the same life you have right now. Because if you go for the thing, if you say, I want to be debt free, and you keep trying to be debt free and you keep being in debt, you remain in the life that's familiar to you. So there's no risk there. The risk is in trying, but that's not super risky considering the other risk of actually succeeding, paying off the debt, and now you have to live debt free. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, this is different. I don't know how to do this. And your brain is always projecting in the future, especially Amy. Amy likes to project in the future and see how it's not going to work out. When you're debt free, I don't think I'm going to like it. And when I say Amy, if you're new and listening to the podcast, it's your amygdala. I call her Amy. And this is your emotions brain center. I like to explain so that you don't get lost in what I'm talking about. But your emotion center is your amygdala that releases all the emotions that are driven by your thoughts into your nervous system. Okay. So when I say Amy is prone to projecting into the future, seeing how the three things she lives for will be interrupted, which is being efficient, which means conserving energy. She likes to do the same thing over and over. She also likes to avoid danger. And to Amy, danger is anything unknown. And the third thing is she likes immediate pleasure. So becoming debt free is a future pleasure. So Amy is already against that. And then it's not conserving energy because you will have to do things differently to become debt free, different than what you're doing now, which means you're going to exert more energy. And then the third thing is because that debt free life is unknown, that's danger. Absolutely not. Unacceptable, disapproved. And she's going to stamp that decision. No, we're not doing this. So that's why your dream feels unachievable, unattainable. And as soon as you even want to think about it, your brain gives you, Amy, 17,000 reasons why it's not possible. Therefore, let's just drop it. All of this happens inside of your brain the minute you want to focus on what you want. So if you know this, that there's fear of failure, but more importantly, there's fear of success. There's fear of the life that you haven't yet lived. The fear of that actually becoming true, that feels more risky. If you know that this is what is happening, the question remains, now why would you still want to go ahead and determine what you want, owning it, being willing to go for it, creating a process to make it happen, going through the process and becoming the woman who has the thing? Why would you want to do that? Here's why you would want to do that. Remember that humming noise I talked about earlier on? It is the one thing that makes life miserable. Life itself is not actually miserable, but the humming of your potential being untapped is what actually makes life miserable. The minute you tap into that desire and you start working towards it, no matter how many times you fail at achieving this desire you have, that failure is nowhere near as painful as the humming noise of untapped potential. When you say, I want to be debt free, and you go to work to own that desire and to create a plan to be debt free and to live through that plan, follow through every day, the pain of thinking about how capable you are of becoming debt free disappear. It dissipates. And all of a sudden, you will face some discomfort on your journey to being debt free. But that discomfort is exciting, is creating and filling a void in your life that was missing before. But what's even more important than all of this is who you become in the process. Think about it. You never had the desire to be debt free because you needed to prove to yourself that you can be debt free. You have that desire. You have that desire because it gives you a direction to grow towards. And that's the point, my friend. One of the biggest obstacles along the way of you owning this desire is that you have a desire. Okay, so you're telling me, all right, Christiane, fine, I'll own my desire, but I don't think it's going to happen. And what I want to tell you this is the moment you own the desire is very important. But the next moment after that is more important because the next moment after that, your brain will offer you that, but I can't do it. It's not achievable. I don't know how. Right. And so immediately you're going to want to retract. You're going to want to walk away, but stop right there. You have to answer that question. Is it possible? Is it doable? You have to answer that from integrity. I want to tell you about James Cameron. I was so impressed when I heard this story because it's one of the movies that I love. And I'm excited that there are more episodes coming out, more installment. James Cameron is the writer of the movie Avatar. Do you know when James Cameron came up with the vision of this movie? it started when he was a kid. Okay? When he was very young, he already had the dream about the bioluminescent forest that became Pandora. If you've watched the movie Avatar, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is one of my favorite movies. But he really came up with this full concept in the mid 1980s. Okay, so this is the Google. The Google said he wrote an 80-page treatment for Avatar in the mid 90s because he wanted to make this movie after the Titanic. But he realized that the visual effects technology available at the time could not create the world that he had in his head. And so he put the project on hold. But he took himself seriously enough to hold on to that vision until decades later, the movie is real in our hands. It's materialized. He took himself seriously enough to believe in his vision and write it down and promise himself he was going to follow through on it. This is so powerful. I really want you to reflect on this, because the next phase of this problem we're facing with women missing out on their dreams is that, okay, so if you do dream and the dream doesn't happen overnight, you quit on your dreams. You quit on your goals. But what you want to realize is the dream was never for you to prove to the world or to yourself that you can achieve it. That's a misconception, a misunderstanding. The dream is here to guide you. And when you miss out on that guidance, life feels hard. And this is what I told my client who was telling me she doesn't know what she wants. When we finally assess what she actually wants, then we started working on, why do we need it to be achieved overnight? It's Amy, right? Remember? Amy is like, I want it now. And if it's not happening, I don't want it anymore. But your dream has so much power in your life that you owe it to yourself to slow down and make it happen, because it doesn't happen to you. You go out and create it. That's exactly what James Cameron did. He wasn't sitting around waiting for technology to just happen. Because he put that vision out in the world, he started working on it. And today we have the movie. And that's another thing that I really appreciated about this story, is that knowing that he had this vision. Okay, so first of all, before I even tell you this, I want you to know how much I love sci-fi movies. I'm like a huge fan. I'm not a fan in like the traditional kind that I don't know the characters. I know some characters, but like I'm not crazy. Like I don't wear the clothes and all that stuff. I just love the idea of sci-fi life. So when there's a sci-fi story, I'm in it. Okay. And this is the reason why I love Avatar, because it's this imaginary world where people are this different. I love it. Okay. James Cameron, when I found out that he's had this vision since so long ago, it gave me so much peace, and I felt safe with the movie, because there's so many sci-fi movies that have come and gone, and I kind of missed out a little bit. I think the last few years we haven't had like really major fun movies that I've enjoyed. And so when I found out that this is a vision he's had for a while, and I know now that technology is advanced enough that he can make as many as them, I don't know how many are in his mind to create, but I think this year or next year we're getting a fourth one. Super fun. I'm so excited. I feel safe with his vision. And this is exactly what happens when you allow yourself, you take yourself seriously enough to stop being afraid of what you want and recognize that what you want has value, it matters, and it's your work to go and create it. You start to trust yourself. You feel grounded around yourself, because you become the woman who brings her own dreams to life, to reality. Imagine that kind of power. You're not waiting for Prince Charming. You're not waiting for the government. You're not waiting for your job. You are making your dreams come true yourself. That's powerful. That's self-trust. Because every other word that comes out of your mouth after this is good as done. There's no question. You never doubt yourself anymore. You don't question if what you say is going to happen. You know you just make it happen. Because even if you are in the process of making it happen, let's say you haven't actually achieved your dream yet, but you have showed up. You have showed up willingly to do the work. You have defined the vision, just like James Cameron wrote an 80-page article about it before it was even going to be conceived. You define it clearly, and then you create a process of how you're going to make it happen. And this is the work we do in Money Academy. So we work together to create a process for you to implement your dreams, your desires, your financial goals. And then you go to work and you make it, you work at this. You automate the process. You get consistent. Even at this point, you are already building so much self-trust because you're in it. You're not avoiding it. You're not running away from it. You're not denying it. You're not pretending it isn't real. You're not pretending it isn't important. You give it the value it deserves. You are a professional dream materializer and you show up for it every single day. When you do that, you establish self-trust even before you've achieved the dream. And when you look around your life and everything that looks amazing out in the world is started in someone's imagination. Why not you? Why not have that kind of solid relationship with yourself where you become the most powerful leader in your own life? Because what you say goes. So how do you start dreaming again? In fact, I don't think you have ever stopped dreaming. I think you just never gave it the voice it deserved. So this is not about you starting to dream again. This is about you owning your dream. This is about you taking yourself seriously enough to speak your dream out loud. So the question is, if nothing were impossible, what would you want? Say it with power, because possibility comes before evidence. And the future you're building, my friends, starts with what you're willing to imagine today. So stop being afraid of what your heart is offering you. Move towards it because you deserve it. And it's never about proving who you are. It's about becoming the most powerful leader in your own life. So if you want to create $1 million in your business, you want to be debt-free and never go back in debt again. If you want to buy a house, whatever financial dream you have, start believing that you're worthy of it. And that's where it begins. All right, my friend. Until the next episode, go out there and live your life on purpose. See you next time.